Welcome to the law offices of Chris M. Ingram's Immigration News Show. Today we ask, with all these policy shifts happening, what's the best way for me to stay ahead of them? We would like to thank Attorney Chris M. Ingram and staff at the law offices of Chris M. Ingram for their hard work in preparing the research for this show, which draws on a wide variety of news sources from both sides of the aisle, providing a balanced view. Attorney Ingram is also a vocal advocate for the rights and protection of immigration applicants, although our coverage is designed to be nonpartisan. Please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our channel. We are also on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Reddit, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team. You can also visit our website on www.breakthroughusa.com. We'd love to see you there. Disclaimer. Please note that this presentation should not be intended as legal advice for your specific situation. If you, a friend, or a family member would like a free consultation, you can visit our website at www.breakthroughusa.com and schedule an appointment. We'd love to hear from you and help you if we can. We'd also like to point out that this presentation was created using AI hosts. Okay, let's dive in.
Yeah, it's great to be here. We definitely have a ton of ground to cover today.
We really do, because if you're listening to this right now, you are likely living a very specific and honestly pretty exhausting dual reality.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like you have two full-time jobs at once.
Right. On one hand, you are the ones literally building the future. You know, you might be an F1 student burning the midnight oil in a university lab, or an early career engineer trying to lock down that very first H1B.
Or a physician navigating the absolute maze of an EB-1 application.
Exactly. You are producing world-class STEM work. But on the other hand, you're forced to manage this parallel, totally unpaid career in immigration compliance.
And I mean, that parallel career requires just as much precision as your actual day job. You're constantly tracking expiration dates, decoding travel restrictions.
Making sure every single form is absolutely flawless.
Right. Because the shifting sands of U.S. immigration policy, they just don't offer much margin for error. And that creates this persistent background hum of anxiety.
For sure. So our mission today for this deep dive, drawing directly from the latest legal research compiled by our attorneys, is to turn that anxiety into agency. We want to help you navigate these shifts so you can just focus on your actual work.
Which is what you're actually here to do.
Exactly. And to anchor this, I want to look at a story our researchers highlighted in this study, one that perfectly captures what it takes to thrive in this system. Are you familiar with the specifics of Artem Patapushin's journey?
The molecular biologist who won the Nobel Prize. Yeah, his trajectory is completely fascinating, mostly because it totally defies that standard prodigy narrative we always hear about.
Right. I mean, a lot of us just assume a Nobel laureate in physiology or medicine was probably born with a toy microscope in his hand, right? Knowing exactly what he wanted to do from day one.
But Patapushin was incredibly candid about his actual reality. He grew up in Lebanon during a highly turbulent time, a civil war, in fact.
Yeah, he left when he was 18 years old. And science wasn't even on his radar. He actually said there were simply no scientists around him growing up.
Which makes perfect sense when you consider the environment. When you grow up in a place where your physical safety and just basic stability are the primary goals, advanced research careers feel entirely abstract. They belong to a completely different world.
But wait, if he was looking for stability, and from what I read in the legal research, he initially leaned toward medicine, which is essentially the ultimate safe, respected path for immigrant families. What actually compelled him to throw away that safety net?
It was a massive risk.
It seems huge for someone just finding their footing in the U.S.
It really was. Yeah. So he transferred to UCLA for his undergrad, fully intending to pursue that safe medical track. But he managed to get a job in a research lab, primarily just to build his resume and get a recommendation letter for med school.
Just checking the boxes.
Exactly. But instead, he fell completely in love with the revolution happening in molecular biology at the time. He was captivated by the sheer process of discovery itself. So he pivoted. He abandoned the guaranteed stability of a medical degree to pursue basic research. And that eventually led him to study mechanosensitive ion channels.
Which I know sounds incredibly complex.
Yeah.
But from what our team provided, it's basically the science of how we feel the physical world.
Right.
He and his team literally poked individual cells with tiny micropipettes to identify the exact proteins, which they named piezo-1 and piezo-2, that allow our bodies to sense touch, pressure, and our position in space.
And that risky pivot away from medicine is what ultimately won him the Nobel Prize.
It's incredible.
But what's crucial to take away from this isn't just the scientific triumph itself, it's the evolution of his identity. Patapushin didn't arrive in the United States as a prepackaged success story.
He wasn't a finished product.
Not at all. He had to grow into that success while simultaneously navigating a completely foreign academic and cultural system. There's a specific quote from his interviews that our attorneys included in the study. When reflecting on his journey, he said he finally found his tribe among scientists.
Finding your tribe. That is such a vital concept for anyone listening right now who might be feeling isolated, because immigration, by its very nature, demands that you leave your original community behind.
Precisely. And even when you arrive, even when you are highly educated and producing incredible work, the isolation can be profound.
You might feel self-conscious about your accent during a critical engineering review.
Or you might struggle to decode the unspoken professional norms of a U.S. hospital. Add to that the constant worry about your visa status hanging over your head.
Yeah, it's a lot to carry.
It is. Finding people who truly understand and value the way your mind works, finding that tribe, is what transforms mere survival into a true sense of belonging. It creates an environment where you can actually take the intellectual risks required for greatness.
And that transition from survival to belonging, it takes immense time and patience. Real breakthroughs come after years of failed experiments and steady refinement.
But when your safety net is thin, like it is for so many people on temporary visas, those years of experimentation feel uniquely dangerous.
Yet you have to push through it. Attorney Chris Ingram provided a brilliant quote in the legal research that captures this mindset perfectly. He says, "Your immigration story is a chapter in your life, not the title of your life."
I love that.
Right. The takeaway for you is that your perseverance and the sheer integrity of the work you produce will ultimately speak much louder than the temporary fear of the system.
It's an essential mindset shift. But to maintain that perseverance, you also have to know the rules of the game you're playing.
You do.
And those rules are changing rapidly as we look toward the upcoming fiscal year.
That kind of tactical perseverance is exactly what you need to navigate the next hurdle we're looking at in our research, the rapidly approaching FY 2027 H1B lottery.
Because inspiration is great, but it has to be paired with immediate action.
Exactly. So what are the critical dates STEM professionals need to have circled in red on their calendars right now?
Okay, USCIS has officially locked in the registration window, and it is incredibly tight this year. For FY 2027, the H1B registration window opens at exactly noon Eastern Time on March 4, 2026.
March 4th. Got it.
And it closes at noon Eastern Time on March 19, 326. We expect the selection notifications to roll out by March 31. If you need a CAP subject visa to work in the U.S., missing this window is simply not an option.
But the dates aren't the only thing we need to worry about this year, right? Yeah. I want to pause on the new Department of Homeland Security policy taking effect on February 27, 2026, just days before that window opens.
Yes, the new weighted selection process.
Right. Now, just to pause here, and I want to be super clear with everyone listening. We are absolutely not taking a political stance on this DHS policy. Whether you lean left or right, we don't endorse these views either way. Our job is strictly to impartially report the legal research our attorneys provided so you know exactly what the mechanics are.
Exactly. We're just breaking down the rules of the road.
So for years, we've told people the H-1B is basically just luck of the draw, a pure random lottery. How exactly does this new rule change the math for someone applying this March?
It changes the mechanics entirely. Under the old system, every single registration had the exact same mathematical odds of being selected, completely regardless of the job offered or the salary. It was a blind draw.
Okay.
Under this new finalized DHS rule, the selection process will generally favor registrations that are tied to higher wage levels. The Department of Labor categorizes prevailing wages into 4 levels, from level 1, which is entry level, all the way up to level 4, which is fully competent or experienced.
So it's a tiered system based on pay.
Right. The new system is designed to prioritize selections starting with those level 4 wages and working its way down. Now, it still keeps some opportunities open across all levels, but the weighting is definitely shifting.
So, practically speaking, if I am a recent grad currently on STEM OPT, my extended student work training, or if I'm relying on CAP-GAP protection, what do we need to do differently this year? And actually, real quick, let's define CAP-GAP for anyone new to the process.
Good idea. CAP-GAP protection is essentially that critical legal bridge. If your student OPT work authorization expires in the summer, but your approved H1B doesn't officially start until October 1st, CapGap allows you to legally stay and continue working in the U.S. during those intervening months.
It bridges the gap.
Exactly. But to get that protection, your H1B registration has to be selected and filed on time.
Right. So under this new wage-weighted system, you cannot wait until late February to casually bring this up with your HR department.
Absolutely not. The days of an employer just throwing a generic job description into the portal at the 11th hour are over.
Because the lottery now heavily factors in those wage levels.
Exactly.
Feeling lost in a maze of visa types and paperwork? Don't know where to turn? We've got your back. With clear answers and real help, we'll guide you every step of the way. Let's navigate it together. Your journey starts today.
Hello, you must be Clara. Welcome to the law office of Chris M. Ingram.
Finally, I found a law firm that will help me achieve my American dream.
At this law firm, you are important to us. That's why we will be with you every step of the way. So join us at the office of Chris M. Ingram.
Your employer has to secure internal approvals regarding your compensation bands well in advance. They need to know exactly where your salary falls on that Department of Labor 4-tier scale before they even register you.
Which means you need to pin down your exact job title, the specific daily duties, your worksite location, and your precise compensation level today, right now.
Yes. If you delay and your employer gets bogged down in internal bureaucracy trying to align your salary with these new DHS rules, you could easily miss that March 19th deadline.
And a delayed start could quite literally cost you an entire year of legal status.
That is the harsh reality. Proactive planning is your only defense against procedural delays. As Chris notes in the legal research our team compiled, when rules shift, don't panic. Get informed, document everything, and move with purpose.
Calm clarity is a massive advantage right now.
It really is.
And moving with purpose is a great transition into the next area of our legal team's research. Because we spend so much time looking at big headline-making policy shifts like the H1B lottery.
Loud changes.
All right, the loud ones. But it's the quiet, behind-the-scenes operational tweaks at USCIS that can really sneak up on you. I call them hidden taxes on your time.
That is the perfect way to describe them.
They quietly stretch out your processing timelines and drain your wallet without ever making the evening news.
And our researchers broke down 3 specific administrative changes at USCIS that every professional needs to be aware of. Let's start with the first one. The new 36-month photo policy.
Oh boy. Yes. As of December 2025, USCIS updated their policy so they will only reuse a previously collected photograph if it was taken within the last 36 months, so 3 years.
Because apparently USCIS thinks we all undergo drastic facial reconstruction every 3 years and 1 month.
Right. But practically speaking, what this means is you can't just recycle that one lucky passport photo from grad school anymore.
It sounds like a minor detail until you look at the actual logistics. If you are renewing your employment authorization document, your EAD work permit, or your advance parole,
Which is the document that lets you travel internationally and re-enter the U.S. while your green card is pending.
Exactly. If you're renewing those, you are going to need fresh biometrics much more frequently. And if you are finally moving forward with your adjustment of status to get that actual green card, you can't rely on USCIS pulling old data.
It's an extra appointment you have to schedule. And usually it falls right in the middle of a massive project deadline at the lab or when you're trying to prep for a major engineering review.
It always happens at the worst possible time.
Always. And the second change our legal team highlighted hits the wallet even harder. Premium processing fee hikes.
Yes, fees are increasing for premium processing requests postmarked on or after March 1st, 2026. Premium processing is a critical tool that guarantees USCIS will process certain petitions within 15 calendar days.
Which is incredibly fast for them.
Right. It is essential when you are dealing with time-sensitive job changes or grant-funded university research where start dates are absolutely rigid and cannot be pushed back.
But wait, employers are usually the ones footing the bill for premium processing, right? Why should the individual applicant be worried about a fee hike?
Because corporate budgets are tight. When those processing costs go up, employers and university HR departments become a lot more selective about when they are willing to use premium processing.
They might just decide to use standard processing to save a few $1,000s.
Exactly. And that places an immense amount of pressure on you and your attorneys to submit a flawless petition the very first time.
Because if you use standard processing and there's even a minor error, you get hit with an RFE, a request for evidence.
Right. An RFE means USCIS stops the clock on your case completely and asks for more documentation. If you don't have premium processing, responding to an RFE traps you in the standard processing backlog, which can take months.
And that delay can ripple out and jeopardize your payroll status, your driver's license renewal, or your project timelines. A clean, meticulously prepared filing is more important than ever.
And the administrative load might get even heavier. The third change highlighted in the study is a proposed DHS rule that would drastically expand biometrics collection.
Oh, this one is big.
Very big. Currently, biometrics are generally focused on applicants over the age of 14. This proposed rule would expand collection to individuals of any age with very limited exceptions.
It signals a much broader systemic trend toward intense, continuous identity verification at every single step of the immigration lifecycle. More appointments, more documentation for dependent family members.
And likely slightly longer processing times as the system tries to absorb all this new workload.
It's exhausting just to list it all out. But the best defense against these hidden taxes on your time isn't to get frustrated, it's to get obsessively organized. You want to make sure your evidence folder is bulletproof.
Right.
To quote Chris from our legal research again.
Yeah.
The goal isn't perfection. It's stability and forward motion. You don't have it to be perfect. You just have to be prepared enough to keep moving forward.
And maintaining that forward motion is vital, not just for your individual career, but for the fundamental infrastructure of the United States.
Let's zoom out and look at that infrastructure for a second. When you read the macroeconomic studies provided by our legal team, you realize just how deeply the U.S. relies on the people listening to this deep dive right now.
It's staggering.
It really is. When you look at where STEM demand actually meets policy reality, the data completely changes the narrative around why these visas exist in the first place.
It really does. The U.S. economy is currently being driven by massive historic investments meant to expand domestic capacity in critical technologies. But you cannot build the future without the architects, engineers, and scientists to actually run it. Let's look at the semiconductor industry as a prime example.
The CHIPS Act. We're seeing billions of dollars flowing into the construction of these massive state-of-the-art fabrication plants across the country. They are trying to bring microchip manufacturing back to domestic soil.
But here is the reality check on that. A fabrication plant requires clean rooms, extreme ultraviolet lithography, and hyper-specialized manufacturing processes. You can't just hire someone off the street to run that equipment.
Definitely not.
The Semiconductor Industry Association warns that to actually operate these new facilities, the industry needs to fill roughly 115,000 new jobs by 2030. We are talking about material scientists, process engineers, and advanced manufacturing experts.
And let me guess, the domestic educational pipeline isn't producing nearly enough graduates to fill that gap.
Not even close. It takes years, often a decade of undergraduate and graduate study, to train a specialized material scientist. The domestic pipeline simply cannot produce enough talent in time. They desperately need international minds.
And if the immigration pathways become bottlenecked, if H1B lotteries fail to deliver or green card backlogs stretch too long, those billion-dollar plants risk sitting idle or falling catastrophically behind schedule.
It's the exact same story when we look at healthcare. Our team's research highlighted data from the Association of American Medical Colleges, the AAMC. They are projecting a shortage of up to 86,000 doctors by the year 2036.
86,000. That is an entire generation of medical care missing, driven largely by an aging population and a massive wave of retiring physicians, right?
Yes. And right now, roughly 25% of all practicing physicians in the U.S. are international medical graduates.
1 in 4 doctors.
1 in 4. Visa-sponsored physicians are not just a luxury to supplement the workforce, they are an absolute necessity. They often serve on the front lines, utilizing J1 waivers or H1B visas to work in dense urban hospitals and remote rural clinics.
And without them, many of those rural facilities would simply have to close their doors. They provide specialized care to populations that would otherwise have Literally zero access.
Exactly. And it isn't just about filling existing jobs, it's about the compounding effect of innovation. There is this fascinating statistic in the legal research from Boston University economist Tariq Hassan.
Oh, sell this one.
He found that inflows of skilled immigrants can actually increase a region's patent filings per capita by about 25%.
A 25% jump in local innovation just by bringing in skilled minds? That's massive.
Which creates a massive cascading economic effect. Those patents turn into startups. Those startups secure funding, they lease office space, and they hire local marketing, HR, and sales teams.
It drives business creation, it raises wages across the board, and it elevates the entire regional economy. Policy decisions regarding your visas aren't happening in a vacuum. They directly impact whether the United States can maintain its competitive edge on the global stage.
Which is exactly why you need to remember that you are not just lucky to be here.
Right. You are highly qualified, you survived an intensely rigorous educational gauntlet, and you are desperately needed. As Chris Ingram emphasizes in the study, immigrant innovation isn't a political slogan. It is the actual engine of economic competitiveness. When you are building your career in STEM, you are quite literally building the economic future of this country.
And that profound value is exactly why it is so crucial for you to aggressively protect your legal progress.
Absolutely. And that brings us to how we want to wrap up today's deep dive. We want you to treat your immigration journey with the exact same scientific rigor that you apply to the complex STEM projects you manage every single day.
Think about it. You would never run a critical lab experiment without documenting your variables.
You would never launch a major software update without a rollback contingency plan.
Exactly. Apply that to your visa status, make your timelines measurable, keep your documentation flawless, and always, always have a backup plan.
And as you map out those contingency plans, there's one final, broader question our team wanted to leave you with today to sort of mull over on your own.
Right. We've talked extensively today about how much the U.S. economy relies on your specific skills, from staffing advanced microchip facilities to preventing catastrophic shortages in rural hospitals.
But talent is the ultimate global commodity.
It is. So if the U.S. continues to rely so heavily on international minds to function, how long until other advanced nations drastically streamline their own immigration policies to outcompete the U.S. for your exact skill set?
That's a real question. If another country, say Canada, the UK, or Germany, suddenly offers a frictionless, fully digitized path to a green card equivalent, paired with robust research funding,
we could see a massive shift in the global balance of innovation entirely. You have choices, and your talent is in incredibly high demand worldwide.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you gained a lot from this discussion. Please leave us a comment if you can. Additionally, you can support our channel by sharing it with your friends and family, helping us build this community together. Also, follow us on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team. We would also like to thank attorney Chris Ingram and his dedicated team once again for researching and preparing this material for our presentation. See you next time on Let's Talk U.S. Immigration. Bye for now.